Kyle, nice to meet you. Dennis Davila
Nice
from
to meet
Puerto Rico. How are you?
you. Good, good, thanks.
My God, you're a legend, man. I was, I always do research for interviews. I had to prepare and I never thought that I was going to interview a person that worked on Toy Story 2, Bugs Life, Minions. You have done so many things as an animator and then as a director, and I just admire your work.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Uh, so congratulations on the Cheap Detectives. You guys made me cry. I was like, I saw it last night, and I was like, man, this movie, it's so powerful. It's like it's a family movie, but then it gives you this huge message about accepting death and moving on and changing, and I don't know, it's great. It's great. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks.
So so how was the concept of this movie first presented to you, and what was like the specific hook that made you realize this is the perfect project for me to step out a little bit of animation and go into this hybrid world?
Sure. Um, well, it's interesting because I think the experience that I had of reading the script was probably very similar to the experience that you had of watching the film in terms of like the kind of emotional changes that you go through, you know.
Mhm.
When the script came to me, it wasn't specifically, about live action. It was more that this was a film that had characters and a kind of situation that felt really familiar to me. The minions are really kind of misfit characters. They're constantly trying to do things that are just like way beyond their skill set. So
Mhm.
a flock of sheep trying to solve a murder mystery felt really similar in that sense, and that's the kind of story I love. Like these like kind of underdog stories. So that like got me hooked really, really early on. But as soon as the themes of death started to come in and grieving and processing grief, that hit me a little bit more on like a personal level, just with my own background. And like I lost my mom when I was quite young, and so I could really relate to the sheep and their impulse to like maybe not deal with the heavy feelings that they were having. But as the story progresses, characters like Sebastian and Mopple being the champions of the value of remembering. And like that's the only way that you can process these things. So
Mhm.
I just started to feel by the time I got towards the end of the film, and certainly by the end of the script, and definitely by the end of the story, how beautiful it all kind of comes back to taking those really hard things to deal with, losing somebody you love,
Mhm.
and metabolizing them and processing them and making it so that you can actually like have tools to sort of deal with it in a lot of ways.
Definitely. So the thing about the movie, it's for me at least, it's so refreshing because there's a lot of productions out there, series, movies that is just about violence and suspense and horror, and then we get this little sunshine in the middle of this dark catalog of productions. So that gave me I remember ending the movie. I was like, I think I'm gonna see this with my mom and my dad. I think
Mm.
they will love it. I when I got home, I told my wife, like, you just missed such a great film. And part of the great film is the amazing cast that that is. It's absolutely massive. It's great. Beyond the excitement of working with such a talented group, what was the most difficult part of coordinating their performances, especially balancing, live action, chemistry on
Sure.
set with voiceover over with the flock, right?
Right. Well, the thing that you mentioned earlier, which is like this is my first live action film, so already that's going to come with a lot of challenges. In animation, you have complete control over the environment. You don't have to worry about a cloud covering the sun and waiting for the cloud to pass so you can shoot again. Like everything is able to you can work with. And also it's nonlinear. You don't have to deal with the day ending, or you can go back and work on something, all that. So what I wanted to do is be as prepared as possible to go into that part of the situation by using what I knew in animation, which was like storyboarding, editing animatics, like all that stuff that
Mhm.
gives you like a map for how to make the movie. But then, of course, what's different is that once you're on set, especially with a group of really talented actors, who are all thinking about their character and what their character would do and how their character would behave in the situation, is, sometimes the staging that feels natural for them is quite different than what you've planned.
Mhm.
And I think that's all well and good. If I just felt better having a plan to fall back on if we needed to. But occasionally you have to also account for the fact that, Lily and Sebastian are in the window over here and they're looking into this room, and the camera has to be able to find them as well. So, there was a lot of cooperation in terms of like the human actors understanding their non-present sheep, counterparts that weren't there on the day. But that was where some of the conversations certainly took us. Otherwise, you definitely want, to let all the talented people you work with, whether they're the actors or the animators who are the actors for the animated characters, to be able to bring forward ideas and, so that the whole film just continues to lift up as you go through all the stages of it.
Mhm. And one of the things that I love the most were actually the animations of the sheep. There is a specifically a scene that made me laugh so much when, I'm gonna give you a little small spoiler, when they try
Mhm.
to cross the road and their
Yeah, yeah.
faces were like, I was like, how do you make that thing so impressive? It was very funny, and it got the essence of what they were trying to do. It was really good. And massive shout to the visual effects department, which I know there were like more than 600 people behind that. So that's really, really good. What specific visual cues or, cinematic techniques did you use to convince the audience that these sheep were actually detecting and solving a
Mhm.
crime rather than just behaving like a normal sheep?
Well, I think the way actually is to make them behave like a normal sheep. It's the buy-in is quite big of like these sheep are going to solve a murder mystery. So and when they enter that idea, it's basically like they're not prepared for that. They don't know how to do that, and I think the audience knows that. So I think it's really important that we showed them as real sheep. They're not going to do anything that real sheep can't do.
Mhm.
The main thing that they do that real sheep can't do is talk. But even that in the language of the movie is they're only talking to each other. They don't talk to humans. They don't have like conversations.
Mhm.
So grounding it in that reality, I think, was really important. And then also just the naivete that the sheep have about what is a clue, what like they're all on board with this, but they don't really know how to do it.
Mhm.
And that's the failing forward and then kind of finding their feet, throughout the process. But it certainly had to be grounded in realistic movement.
Nice, nice. Listen, Kyle, my time is up. I wish I could talk to you, a lot more. Thank you again for
Thanks,
this
Dennis.
wonderful movie. Congratulations on your amazing career. Looking forward to see your next project.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you,
Take
Dennis.
care.
Cheers.